There is a kind of pain that doesn't leave visible bruises, but it shatters every bone in your spirit. And that pain often comes not from strangers, but from those who claim to love us, support us, and guide us. There is a dangerous combination in this world when ignorance joins hands with dominance, and it takes the shape of a narcissist. When someone who refuses to grow in wisdom tries to control the lives of others, what results is not leadership, it is emotional slavery. But here's what I want you to know. You are not created to be controlled. You are created to rise. Every soul has the right to breathe freely, to think freely, and to love freely. If someone tries to take that away by using their ignorance as an excuse to dominate, then it's time to awaken. Not in anger, but in awareness. Not in bitterness, but in boundless strength. So today, let's talk about how to break free when narcissists combine ignorance with dominance, and how your soul can still shine through that darkness. Narcissists weaponize their ignorance to control what they do not understand. Ignorance in the hands of a narcissist becomes a weapon sharper than any sword. It's not the kind of ignorance that stems from a lack of opportunity or education. No, it's a deliberate blindness, a refusal to see the worth in others, because acknowledging that worth would mean sharing the spotlight. They fear your light because they know deep down it exposes their shadow. They will look at your intelligence and call it arrogance. They will watch you speak truth and label it rebellion. Your confidence, they'll name it defiance. Not because those things are true, but because their ignorance cannot comprehend anything that does not revolve around their ego. The moment you begin to shine, they panic. Because in their world, there is room for only one sun. So instead of learning from you, they diminish you. Instead of celebrating you, they compete with you. And when they can't outshine you, they try to silence you. But here's what they forget. Your value does not disappear just because they refuse to see it. You don't become less radiant because they wear blindfolds. You are still worthy, still luminous, still enough. They believe that by controlling you, they are proving their superiority. But true superiority needs no victims. Real strength is not manipulated, it elevates. But to them, control feels like safety. Because to relinquish control would mean to confront their own fragility, and that terrifies them. They dismiss your truth because they fear it will dismantle their illusion, and illusions are all they have. Their ignorance builds a world of lies, and anyone who speaks truth becomes a threat. You don't need to educate someone who enjoys their blindness. You don't have to dim your light just because someone else is afraid of brightness. The sun never apologizes for shining, neither should you. They will mock what they do not understand. They will belittle what they cannot be. And they will try to rewrite your story because the truth makes them uncomfortable, but your story is yours to tell. They will project their insecurities onto you. Their failures will become your flaws in their narrative. But remember, you do not have to accept a version of yourself written by someone too blind to see your brilliance. When you walk away from their noise, something magical happens, clarity. You begin to hear your own voice again. You remember who you are without their labels. And in that space of remembrance, you find healing. It's not your job to make them see. It's not your role to shrink so they feel tall. Your only task is to continue becoming growing, glowing, expanding beyond the borders of their comfort. Your light may threaten their darkness, but that's not your responsibility. Keep shining, keep speaking, keep becoming. Dominance, disguised as leadership, is a form of emotional tyranny. There's a subtle violence in the way a narcissist leads. Not with vision, but with vanity. Not with purpose, but with power, hunger. They disguise their need to control as leadership, but true leadership does not require submission. They don't guide, they dictate. They don't empower, they overpower. They lead with fear instead of inspiration, demanding loyalty without offering love. They set rules not to create order, but to cement their authority. And yet, because they wear the mask of a leader, many follow, not out of respect, but out of fear. Not because they believe in the vision, but because they're afraid of the punishment. This is not leadership, this is emotional tyranny. They tell you that obedience is trust, that silence is maturity, that questioning is betrayal, but none of that is true. True leadership invites questions. It welcomes feedback. It celebrates growth. In their world, everything must orbit around them. Your opinions are threats. Your independence is rebellion. Your voice is dangerous. So they push you into a corner and call it love. They clip your wings and call it protection. They speak louder, not because they're right, but because they're afraid you'll be heard. They interrupt your thoughts, not to engage, but to erase. Their dominance thrives in your silence. But your silence is not peace. It is suppression. It is the burial of your truth. And peace built on suppression is not peace at all. It is quiet torment. They create chaos and then blame you for the mess. They distort the narrative so that you question your own sanity. This is not leadership. It is manipulation wrapped in the language of care. They offer conditional acceptance. You are only valuable if you agree. Only lovable if you obey. But real love is not earned through silence. Real worth is not measured by compliance. You don't owe anyone your voice. You don't have to trade your integrity for inclusion. And you certainly don't have to remain in the shadow of someone who only feels tall when you feel small. It's not disrespectful to walk away from a false leader. It's not betrayal to choose your peace. It's not selfish to reclaim your mind. There's power in naming things as they are. There's healing in recognizing manipulation even when it's dressed as mentorship. There is liberation in walking away without needing to explain. You don't owe them your silence. You owe yourself your freedom. And sometimes the bravest thing you can do is refuse to bow. You can be compassionate without being controlled. Compassion is a beautiful thing until it's used against you. Narcissists are masters at twisting goodness into a leash. They will take your empathy and turn it into submission. They will turn your forgiveness into permission for more harm. You forgive once, they take it as an invitation. You explain your feelings, they use them as weapons. You give them grace, they see it as weakness. But your compassion was never the problem, their manipulation was. Being kind doesn't mean being blind. Being compassionate doesn't mean being controlled. And being empathetic doesn't mean you should be endlessly exploited. They will guilt you into staying. They will shame you for saying no. They will call you ungrateful, dramatic, even cruel, not because you are, but because they've lost access to your submission. But boundaries are not cruelty. They are clarity. They are the declaration of where you end and another person begins. And no healthy relationship can exist without them. You can care deeply and still say, enough. You can offer love and still demand respect. You can be understanding and still be firm. Narcissists thrive in blurred lines. They love when you question yourself. They love when your compassion makes you hesitant to protect yourself. But you were not created to be anyone's emotional sponge. Your heart is a sacred space, and you get to decide who has access to it. Just because someone is broken doesn't mean they have the right to break you. Healing is not your job if they're not willing to change. You are not their therapist. You are not their fixer. You are not responsible for carrying the weight of someone else's refusal to grow. You can walk away and still wish them well. You can choose peace and still hold love in your heart. Compassion without boundaries becomes codependency, and codependency steals your voice. You deserve relationships where your love is not used against you, where your kindness is not mistaken for weakness, where your yes means something because your no is also respected. Let your compassion guide you, not trap you. Let it empower you, not enslave you. Because true compassion starts with yourself. The most powerful resistance is becoming everything they said you could never be. They try to break you with words. They try to define you with labels. They try to limit you with fear. And yet, here you are, still breathing, still rising, still dreaming. That alone is rebellion. That alone is resistance. Because every time you choose to become, despite their attempts to shrink you, you declare your freedom. They said you were too emotional, and now your empathy heals others. They said you were too ambitious, and now your vision inspires nations. They said you were too loud, and now your voice sets captives free. They saw your light and tried to dim it. They saw your potential and tried to poison it. They saw your strength and tried to call it a threat, but you were never the problem. You were simply powerful in a way that terrified the insecure. And their dominance was never about you, it was about their fear of being irrelevant. You don't have to fight them with rage, you don't have to prove them wrong with noise. Your growth is loud enough. Your healing is loud enough. Every step forward is a slap to their lies. Every boundary you set is a rejection of their control. Every dream you chase is a reminder that they never had the final word. They wanted you quiet, you became a voice. They wanted you small. You took up space. They wanted you invisible. You became a light. You are not just surviving, you are becoming. And in that becoming, you are rewriting the story. You are showing others what it looks like to rise from emotional rubble. Your joy is defiance. Your peace is rebellion. Your success is a revolution. You didn't have to destroy them to win. You just had to become everything they said you could never be. That is your power. That is your revenge. And in the end, it was never about them. It was always about you remembering who you were before they told you who you had to be. When narcissists combine ignorance with dominance, they build a prison not just for others, but for themselves. There becomes a small room of mirrors where only their image is reflected and no other truth is allowed to enter. And yet, many of us have been trapped in that room not by choice, but by manipulation, fear, or misplaced loyalty. But the beauty of the human spirit is that it was never made to be confined. The walls they build with their ignorance can seem impenetrable. Their dominance can feel unbearable, and their presence can suffocate the very light inside you. But even in the darkest spaces, light finds a crack. And once it does, you begin to see your voice still works, your soul still shines, your story is still yours to tell. This journey away from the grip of those who refuse to see your worth is not just survival, it is reclamation, it is erection. It is a bold statement that you will no longer be ruled by the blindness of others or by the cruelty disguised as care. You rise not with vengeance but with vision, not with rage but with clarity. Not to destroy them, but to rebuild yourself. You owe no one your silence. You owe no one your suffering. You owe only your soul the freedom it has always deserved. The combination of ignorance and dominance might silence rooms, but it cannot silence truth. And the truth is this: you are not here to be diminished. You are here to expand. You are here to grow into the fullness of who you are without apology and without fear. So walk away from the cages built by those who cannot see your wings. You were never meant to live in a space that cannot hold your light. And when they say you are too much, too bold, too sensitive, too passionate, remember that those are only threats to people who have chosen to live small. Keep rising.